we still have a problem, and it's a real problem. And the problem is this: women are not making it to the top of any profession anywhere in the world.
You have to kiss thousands of fat, ugly asses on your way to becoming the CEO.
In those top companies, most of the women who are at a higher level, they are not at a position where they are directly having a responsibility of profit and loss to the company.
And I don't think women actually end up in a jobs that they really love, because they're so good at studies, they're good at SATs,
Yeah.
they're good at college, they're good at everything. But I don't really know that women actually end up doing things that they really love, except they're just saying like, that sounds all right.
I'm just giving an example of an Indian woman for coming from a Orthodox Brahmin family heading a multinational company. If she can do it, why other women can't do it?
Obviously, not everybody will become CEO. When we say most of the men become CEO, you don't understand that most of the men also become nothing. Okay, or women become nothing also. All right, here we go again. And hi, Vikram.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. All right, as you already know, the new setup that we have, it's specifically done because we're going to be discussing a very sensitive topic, particularly in a very sensitive environment. We're still under lockdown number 5 now. It's going on, it's happening. And so I wanted to make sure I'm well protected. So on my left, I have Joker, the original one, Heath Ledger. And on my right, I have Uma Thurman, the Kill Bill lady. She will kill everybody. In this one, she is in the Pulp Fiction, but obviously everybody knows her from Kill Bill. Um, so yeah, I feel very protected from all the feminazi or the wolves. Apparently, there's some wolves going around, but I'm more concerned about feminazi than wolves. But at the end of the day, probably the wolves will take me, or probably both will. Okay, to the point, getting into the point, I just listened to Sheryl Sandberg, and if people don't know who she is the COO, and if people don't know what COO is Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, which she still is. She's been there forever. I think since it got incepted, or just probably right after. Now, I listened to a TED talk which was called "Why We Have Too Few Women Leaders." Now, she begins with a factual statement, and she said, "We have a big problem, and the problem is this: women are not making it to the top of any profession anywhere in the world." Of course, there's barring exceptions, but that's the main point. And then she goes on to give three-part advice to women how they can actually change that. Something that I really liked about the podcast, about the TED Talk, was that she does not go into shifting the blame, particularly on glass ceiling, on misogyny, or the rotten culture in the workplace. She just
Yeah.
tells you exactly how you can fix something, because that's something I really believe in. Instead of blaming other people who have power, how do you take it from them? I don't think anybody gives the power. You have to take it from them.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about from our end the top reasons why women don't reach the top positions in profession. No pun intended. For me, the primary reason, if we start from here, I would say it's the lack of killer instinct and the mentality that says that winning at all costs, no matter what happens. And I want to give an example on this thing that when the for cricket team, Indian cricket team, when it was under Rahul Dravid, I think the team from pure talent wise, it was better than the team which is under Virat Kohli right now. Even if you talk about JJ Bumrah, who's like the best bowler in the world, dude has been here only for 2 years. He's played what 10, 12 test matches, for heaven's sake. Rahul Dravid had players who are like playing since 1989. Tendulkar, they had himself. He was the best overseas player, Rahul Dravid himself. Saurav Ganguly, VVS Lakshman, Viren Sehwag. I mean, best bowlers also. Anil Kumble was playing. Harbhajan Singh was at his peak. I mean, we had the best bowlers. I mean, we didn't have
Zaheer
the
Khan.
best. bowlers. Zahir Khan as well. We didn't have the best fast bowler, but spinners were taking all the wickets, and we had the best batsmen, so you can't get them out. And but if you really see the success, we got kicked out in 2007 World Cup in the first round, obviously, and then he did have some success outside. But my point was like right now the team is much worse, but it's about killer instinct. It's about winning at all costs. We like little bit this Aussie spirit we have that Aussies had in the 90s and early 2000s, and the same way West Indies had in the late 70s, and then completely rolling everybody in the 80s and somehow coming to a halt in the mid of 90s. um, and that's something because the journey, this whole path to becoming the CEO, it's not like you just become a CEO tomorrow, unless obviously you're Ananya Birla, who is a daughter of some massive Birla company, and they just make you CEO directly. A regular person takes a lot of time. And apart from those exceptions where you become this OYO CEO within like few years, normally it takes a couple of decades around that amount of time for a regular person to become. For Satya Nadella, so it obviously took them around at least 2 to 3 decades to eventually actually become a CEO. So I think the whole pathway is just so difficult. And one of my favorite authors, Scott Adams, says he precisely puts it. I say beautifully put. So he says you have to kiss thousands of fat, ugly asses on your way to becoming the CEO, and that's the last thing that a woman would actually want to do, or any woman would actually want to do. Is just, and not for 2 days, for 10 days, for a year, for like sometime for a decade, sometime even more than for a decade. So I just feel that it's just something that women don't want. And I often say, this is a saying I have, that women do not lose out on intelligence; they lose out on intent. And in fact, I will go on to say that why one of the reasons I will not become a CEO of some big corporation is probably for the same reason, because I don't have the killer instinct for that job. The CEO, I don't want to be CEO. And probably, I don't know if I'll, in fact, go ahead and say that it probably holds true for you also, Vikram, for the same reason, that you didn't have the clear instinct. We've already talked about that a lot, but
Yeah.
obviously, we're not going to get into the exact nitty gritties of what we're saying. But I mean, you can actually tell me what you feel, that what you have just discussed till now. It's like, is that something which you feel is very important, the killer instinct and winning at all costs?
Yeah, it is. I think what you said about killer instinct, and also as you said that becoming a CEO takes a lot of time. It's like a career choice, and you have to work towards it, and there's no letting go at any point of time. Read some articles, I saw some stats, and generally in those top companies, most of the women who are at a higher level, they are not at a position where they are directly having a responsibility of profit and loss to the company, and that is paramount. If you see any CEO, they work towards it. They hold certain position of power, and eventually by going up the ranks, they become the CEO. So uh, so first step to becoming a CEO is to have an experience where you are holding a position in a company which is directly related to the profit and loss of the company. That is called a P&L position. In the TED talk you mentioned, she says the same thing, that at some point of the time where a woman has to make some sacrifices, because see, they are different than us, right? I mean, we don't give birth to anyone, right? We
Yeah.
do support our family, but giving birth to a child and then at least taking care of him or her to a certain point of time, that takes a lot of commitment as well. So so I think she mentions in the TED talk there that uh, women generally think of these things very early in their career, and that thought always plays on their mind, and somehow they don't take those aggressive decisions which needs to be taken in route to becoming someone very powerful inside the company, and then eventually you may become the CEO of the company. As you said, the lack of killer instinct, and the sacrifices which has to be made to remain in a position of power for a longer period of time, that is somewhere lacking. and it is because of many reasons. And I mean, it's not a black and white situation where this is something which happens with all the women, but by and large this has been happening. If you see any companies, there are very few women leaders who are in those key positions, who directly hold a seat of power, or as you say. So yeah, I certainly agree with you that there.
Okay, because you already touched upon that, because I had written something else, the next one, women being more agreeable than men. But I'm going to actually get into this part only then.
Hmm.
And as you said that, see, it takes a lot of time, unless you come from some extreme privilege where your own family is completely into it. As I said, Ananya Birla, or you're
Hmm.
from Mukesh Ambani family or something like that, right? So
Hmm.
apart from that, a regular person, we're only talking about regular people. We are when we're discussing this thing, let's be very clear. We're not talking about somebody who is not come from privilege. We're not talking about underprivileged women and people who are lower middle class or working class who don't actually teach their daughters, and then they're like left behind. We're talking about the family. If I have a sister, Bikram, you don't have a sister, but if you had a sister, you would have gotten the same education. And then after
Hmm.
that, what happens? We're talking from that point of view. Once you actually were the same family, you had the same advantages or disadvantages, and later on, what happens? So because it takes a lot of time, because you move forward, it's not like entertainment or art where suddenly you can just nobody knows you for 17 years and suddenly you're Nawazuddin Siddiqui,
Hmm.
and then 10 years later your wife says like you're the worst person on earth and we want like 30 crores in alimony, and then you're like, oh, I didn't beat my wife. Before getting completely distracted and going on a different tangent, I'll come back. My point is like it's a build up, slow,
Hmm.
gradually, brick by brick. So what happens is when it's like, think about the situation right now, and I'm just thinking of right off my head, I'm not prepared this thing, and suddenly COVID happened, right?
Hmm.
And every construction, whatever is happening, if you move around, just a construction, I'm just using one example as an analogy, it just stopped,
Hmm.
right? And then
Hmm.
it will restart after, I mean, it's going to be a good example. Okay, it's going to restart after the COVID is finished, right? People will
Hmm.
restart everything. Now I feel, and right off my head, it's similar to what happens with men and women. There is no COVID in male a man's life, because once
Hmm.
he gets married, he just gets on with life. It's like COVID one, like when it
Hmm.
happened in China, but it's not happening to me. Okay, I heard the news. We took a
Hmm.
couple of precautions. I'm not going to China. Then and then I'm get on with my life. But this is what COVID happens in women's life, is COVID right now, COVID-19, not COVID 2003, and there's a huge break, and in that break, a lot of people just move ahead,
Hmm.
and that break
Priorities
happens.
change. Yeah.
Priorities change. That break happens around 30. So as Cheryl was saying, Cheryl Sandberg, not Cheryl, somebody, my friend, just to make sure, as Sandberg was saying that um, women, he said, she used the word, don't leave before you leave. And what she means
Hmm.
by that, and she says, don't take your foot off the gas pedal. What she means by saying that women actually, when they're at office, when they, let's, she's using a median age as 30, and which is reasonable, right? India, it will
Hmm.
be even lower. No wonder Indian girls are not doing at all well at all. So median age is 30. She's saying when people are reaching that age, and if they engage, if they're about to get married, about to get pregnant, they already start thinking, their mind already goes somewhere else. The priorities are already changing. Naturally, you're not going to become CEO if your priorities are already changing. In fact, she
Yeah.
gives an example of a woman actually approaching her with all these issues, that how she's going to go about the family and everything. So she's like, you look fairly young. I mean, have you spoken with your husband? She's like,
I'm not.
no, I don't have a husband. She said she didn't even have a fucking boyfriend in the first place. So this person who's super young, I think she was probably 20, mid 20s, and she's already thinking about all this. One of her foot is already somewhere else. Her mind is already diverting.
Hmm.
I have seen this in myself. I've managed few people, happened to manage over the last few years, few women, and the moment they start about to get married, about to get pregnant, and people don't like hearing this, but it's factual that they
and
just
and we are
change.
not and we are not
Hmm.
saying it's wrong or right. We are just stating the facts that that happens. And that is a natural phenomenon which we have also seen in women.
Absolutely. So I don't think it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, in fact, if you remember what I said first, there is a reason why I will never become a CEO of some big shot
Yeah.
company unless I started myself. Same goes true with Bikram. Just to very quickly say why I was saying Bikram without getting into too long, because Bikram had a lot of opportunities to go somewhere else, particularly the United States, stay there, make a lot of money, and move quicker up the ladder, and then later on probably become CEO by the time maybe before hitting 40. Okay, but he decided to have his priorities change in a way that he said, I'm going to have a kid and I'm going to spend more time with my family, and particularly in the primary years. I'm just speaking for you, sorry, but
Yeah.
in the primary years when my child is growing up. And because he chooses that, he wants that. And because of
Yeah.
that, of course, if he's going to become CEO, he's not going to become CEO before 40. Whatever I'm saying is like, their years get added to his life. But as a man, he can always come back and say, okay, now my daughter is older, my wife is settling in, I can come back and be aggressive. A woman does not come back in her mid 40s like, no, I'm going to come back, I'm going to be more aggressive. It just doesn't happen. Okay, and that way women eventually after a point they said, okay, I'm settled in, I like it, why do I want to go back to a job I probably don't even care for? That's what
Mm.
Cheryl was saying, that whenever women come back, one of the biggest reasons women don't come back is whatever job they're doing, they probably don't even care about it so much. They need to have a job which is so compelling
Yeah.
for them that they
Yeah.
love the job so much, then they'll come back. I mean, think about Shri Devi. Once she got married, she bloody had the best career. She did not fucking act for what, 14, 15 years. Madhuri Dixit gets married, all these women.
Yeah.
It's examples. I'm giving examples of people who are so amazing in their career and they give up their fucking career. Okay, so
Mm.
when if anybody has any problem with that understanding, then they don't understand the basic idea of human biology, because you can't beat biology. So the point is like, if you really want to go ahead in your life, you're not lagging behind because of your gender, but you're lagging behind because of your choices, because of your attitude, not because
Yeah.
of intellect, but because of intent. So there are different factors that come into play, because Rahul Dravid, although will probably be a better test player, right? Or in
Mm.
fact, he is a better test player than Virat Kohli. But Virat Kohli's mindset is completely different than Rahul Dravid, because Rahul Dravid defense. How can I compare Rahul Dravid defense with anybody? In fact, but
Mm.
Virat Kohli will end up making more runs, probably having a better average also eventually over the longer run,
Mm.
because of intent, and he wants to achieve so much more. And for Rahul Dravid, it's probably sportsmanship is so much more important. Being a gentleman is so much more important, and playing the game the way it's supposed to be played is more important. And he will never be the person who's going to be going into people's faces and actually having a brawl in the middle of IPL like he had with Gautam Gambhir. Again, Gautam Gambhir is back.
Yeah.
So, yet another example. So, next one I want to talk about is, this is a very common phenomenon. If you actually ever listen to Jordan Peterson, he talks about it a lot, and this is fairly straightforward, that women are more agreeable than men when it comes to salaries, when it comes to promotions. Women are just not as aggressive or even assertive to say like, I want it, because the pressure on male is so much more to earn more salary, because eventually they have to provide for the family. They can't sit at home and take care of the kids. Again, another cultural problem. Women actually have that choice. So when when they have to actually fight for the salary, they're like, okay, I don't want to fight so much. I like my job. I want to be nice to people. I want people to like me. That's one of the things that men don't care if they don't like. I don't know any CEO of any big company that people say, "Oh, I really like this person." Zuckerberg was likable at the at the beginning, maybe, but then I mean, think about him. He's been in a lot of trouble.
Mm.
Steve Jobs, greatest
Yeah.
example. Right now, Bill Gates is one of the likable person, but right now, if you're actually following the news, people think he's the most evil person. He's trying to sell his own. Vaccine, apparently trying to make
Yeah.
billions of dollars. The guy
Yeah.
spent billions of dollars making toilets in Africa and freaking malnutrition in India. So, but people still don't care, because that's what's going to happen. But generally speaking, as you're a man and you, whatever women you've met in your life, you do understand that women actually like to be liked much more than men. Men say we rather win than be liked. Women will say like, I rather be liked, I rather be pretty than
Mm.
actually be a winner. Okay, how many women you come across, Bikram, they say like, I want to be a winner, I want to be a CEO. Okay, like a genuine CEO, not just the CEO everybody's putting right
Yeah.
now. I'm the CEO of this company. It's like, where is this company? I created this thing. I have two employees. One of them is me. Another person I don't get. He's not getting paid yet. It's like we will pay him eventually. That's not. I'm talking about a real corporation, like a Facebook, like
Mm.
Microsoft, like somebody who creates it. So I don't know what you have to say on that. Have you had any examples on this directly that you
Yeah.
feel that women also? Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I have worked in several companies. I think I've worked in like six multinational companies, all IT companies, and I've met a lot
Show
of
off.
women. Yeah,
Hmm.
so in those companies, I think I can count only handful of women who I can say that they were really aggressive and they wanted to move up the ladder, because I've seen a lot of women who, as you said, tend to settle in. after a certain point in their life, whether having after having after getting married, after having kids, so they don't want to take a lot of responsibilities as well, and then there are a lot of
Correct.
distractions as well. And I can also relate to that because as I think you have mentioned before, I have also on my professional front, I mean, since I am doing this, and people who are watching, some of them might know that I have also have a small startup which I'm managing, and then I also work in a company. So so to manage everything, I have taken a step back in my professional career, and I've seen a lot of women doing that because of certain because of different reasons. I'm doing it for different reason because I want to grow in a different area. But yeah, I have seen some women. I won't reveal any names, but in my first company, there was a woman who was the assistant manager in my project, and I follow her even now, and she's doing quite well now, and I think she's in a VP position right now. So within, I think, how many years? 8 years, 8 to 9 years. So there are women like that, but they are more exception to the general trend which we are seeing, because I've seen, as I said, I know a lot of women who sacrificed. And see, look, I'm not saying that they don't get pressure from the family. I mean, there's a lot of pressure from the family as well, that, oh, you should now step back and take care of the kids, and maybe leave your job. I know certain women like that, and know how they have pressure on them. But that's the point, right? You, if you want to be someone, if you want to be at a position of power, you have to fight through this, and everyone has to do it. It's not just the woman, even us. See, if for example, I had taken a different path. If I wanted to become a CEO, I had to sacrifice a lot of things. I had to move out from my comfort zone. I had to spend less and less time with my family, and I had to let go of all my other hobbies, which I'm still pursuing right now because I've taken a step back. So so this happens, and again, we are not saying this is good or bad, because we are also doing the same thing. But since we are talking about why women are not reaching to that upper positions in a companies, like with the positions which really matter, so this is one of the reason, yeah, as you said, that they are more agreeable. They tend to take it easy after certain point of time in their life.
Yeah, absolutely true. Because also coming to the next topic, which is saying that men are crazy. So I feel men are really crazy because I've known a lot of people, and this is something so much true for people who really go really to the top. These people are working 100-hour weeks, and not for like months. These people are working 100-hour
Yeah,
weeks for years, sometimes entire decade, and sometimes people are working for 2 decades. It's crazy.
yeah.
Think about Elon Musk. This guy actually was sleeping on his factory floors because for days and sometimes months, because there was some problem with some Model 3 or something. So this is, I'm just
Hmm.
quoting it directly, which I got from him. It says SpaceX and Tesla CEO has endured an excruciating year. This was in 2018, and year sometimes that drove him to sleep on his factory's floor and work for more than 120 hours. Do you guys know how many hours in a week? How many hours? 144, right? Is it
Yeah,
144?
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
144 hours. Guy's working 120 hours. And then the guy says, listen, I've pulled back now and I'm working more sustainable hours, which is around 90 hours a week. I was like, are you having crazy, buddy?
Yeah,
Are
and
you
he was getting a
having
lot of flack because of that, and saying, "Oh, this is against. I mean, this is not good. He's working so many hours. How can someone work so many hours? What about work life balance and everything?" And he said, "Listen, if you want to achieve something, you have to work these many hours. You can't just work 40 hours and make a company like Tesla."
Absolutely. I just don't feel like, even when we said like me and Bikram will never be CEOs on the traditional manner. But
Hmm.
one thing which is different is that, and this is, I mean, I'm obviously going to attribute a little bit to the culture, because we are expected to do something, right? But we can be
Hmm.
CEO of something that we probably want to create ourselves. That you can
Hmm.
also see some women doing that. But
Yeah.
eventually, how far are you going to go? So women will open a restaurant or pastry shop. You know, a lot of women get into bakery and they'll get into NGOs. And one of the other things, if you remember, Cheryl said that even in NGOs, which people feel is the
Uh-huh.
out and out domain of women,
Yeah.
only 20% CEOs are women. So
Yeah.
one out of every 5 CEO in NGO is a woman, and it's incredible. In the field, when I was growing up, I used to think like, dude, if there's going to be best chefs, of course, going to be a woman, right? Every woman fucking
Mm.
cooks, and they are so good. And then you go into the real market, and you're like, in fact, I
Yeah.
noticed early when I was early 2000s, I was hardly any found any woman chef who was in the top in the ladder. It was hardly
Mm.
there. So like that is very surprising. I was like, how is that possible? So there was a lot of other fields I felt like women should have been easily at the top, but it's only later on I realized that eventually to reach the top, you have to give up a lot of things. If you have to become the best chef, you probably have to travel round the clock, every other
Mm.
country, leaving your sons and daughters, husband for like months, sometimes for a year. It's just something that women don't want. And I'm constantly saying it's not ability, it's about women don't want it. So constantly being blaming on glass ceiling and saying that and also another thing that women always say that now the structure, the how the corporate world works, it needs to come around so they fits them and
No.
their schedule, the leave they need, the maternity thing. The fact is, in an ideal world, yes, but it's not an ideal world. It's not going to happen. So you can keep asking for it. It's not going to happen. They'll pretend they're doing it, but it's not going to happen. Same way we noticed that when Facebook, I don't know if Facebook was some big companies, they start giving the paternal leaves, right? So people
Mm.
leaving for men as well, exactly the same amount. But men are not taking it because they're scared. They don't want to go away for 3 months, 4 months, because they're like, when I come back, some other motherfucker is going to be taking my job. I'm not going to do it. So with the same attitude, women have that. Oh, I'm not going to take maternity leave. You, some other punk will actually come and take my job. So of course not. Why men? When it happened to men, when it happened to women, it was a huge victory. Okay, for
Mm.
women when they got maternity leave, it wasn't always there, right? So when
Yeah.
they got it, it was a huge victory. But when men got it, they were like, no, no, I don't want it. I don't want it. The only men will take it like me. I'll be like, okay, I'll take it. I don't
Even
care.
the
I will take, yeah, we'll take it. Right? I'm like, yeah, that's good, that's good. But if it is our own company, we're making movies and we're in the middle of film. If we have a kid, I'm not gonna leave the movie in the middle of it. I don't know. I have like bunch of like
Mm.
so much money involved in this. Forget about money. I was like, I don't know. I can't. I need to be there. I can't have my assistant doing the film or my entire production house. I need to be in the thick of the things because this is one thing what Cheryl said. Like you can only go back to something that you really really love, and hardly I don't think women actually end up in a jobs that they really love because they're so good at studies, they're good at
Yeah.
SATs, they're good at college, they're good at everything. But I don't really know that women actually end up doing things that they really love, except they just saying like, that sounds all right. Because I think the structure of the society, and this is pretty much goes through with men also, but
Mm.
because men are pressured to keep following no matter what happens. So
Mm.
when everybody does something and you like we are doing jobs, most of the men in India, if you talk about India, like doing jobs that they probably did not want to do. But the
Mm.
fact that at the end the pressure is there, so they're saying, okay, now that I'm here, I might as well make as much money as possible as early as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't fucking be here forever. Or at least when I go to the job, people say, boss aa gaye. Okay. Instead of like, yeah, be assistant manager hai. 37 year ka ho gaya ye. So things like that. So but women feel like I don't like my job, I like my family, I have a kid, somebody has to take care of the goddamn kid, and I'm better equipped anyway. So I end up doing that, and society is not ready for men staying at home, and men anyway want to go out. So it just kind of like just everything just fits in, right? It's obviously holds true for your scenario as well directly, but
Yeah.
without even giving an example, that's pretty much the story of everybody for that matter. So
Yeah, and
how many men? Yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to make a point, which I think will take 2 minutes. So whoever has watched till now, we have not talked about glass ceiling much because feminists or other people who will be saying, "What about glass ceiling? Why are you not talking about this?" So I'll just give one example. The CEO of PepsiCo, who has now retired, Indira Nooyi, she is an Indian. She has headed PepsiCo for 12 years as a CEO, and she comes. I was watching her interview, and she comes from this very orthodox Brahmin family in India. She was born in India. She is not someone like who was born in US and she has an Indian name. Not like that. She is actually born in India, studied here, and then went to Yale in US. She headed the company for 12 years. I think she just retired last year, and she was talking about that. and it's very famously known that she only sleeps for 4 hours in the day, in the night, I mean. And she was just telling us about a small incident when she became the CEO. She went home and told her mother, and her mother said, "Whatever you are, when you come into this family, when you step into the house, you are my daughter. You are your husband's wife. You are a daughter-in-law. You don't wear this crown and come inside the house." So this is the kind of support she is getting in the house. Yet she was
Hmm.
able to successfully head a big company like PepsiCo, which is I think one of the biggest companies in the world, for 12 years. So if you want us to talk about glass ceiling, I'm just giving an example of an Indian woman coming from a Orthodox Brahmin family heading a multinational company. If she can do it, why other women can't do it?
I think the two things are very good. I think I really like that. I think I'll go back a little bit, which I have written a note which I did not read out, and I think this is a good time to read. And then another example which I did not prepare for, so I'll not be perfect in that.
Hmm.
Excuse me on that. So, but I'll say that because surely there's a cultural aspect to it, but an individual level, as you just explained, you can always. You are the only one who's actually stopping you from breaking glass ceiling
Hmm.
or anything for that matter, because you can break the norm and be aggressive if you really want something, and you can be as assertive, as aggressive as men or anybody for that matter, and actually make it and have and get what you deserve in the workplace, and actually you can get it no matter how it is. Because if this person did it, in fact, I ended up watching a little bit of an interview. Now, coming back to this thing, I feel like when people say that glass ceiling, there is a glass ceiling for everybody. That's it. They can put a
Yeah.
different name because glass ceiling is used for men, right? Okay, think about this thing. Iceland plays when England goes to, let's just say England goes to play World Cup, right? In soccer,
Hmm.
England has population of what, 60 million,
Hmm.
and then Iceland plays. Iceland beat England in the last Euro in
Yeah.
2016, right? And Iceland has 100,000 population. Whereas Iceland said, okay, listen, buddy, you have 600 times more population than us. So, no, you will not play this player. You will have like only two players on the pitch, right? That's not
Yeah,
how it
change
works,
change the
right?
rules for us.
Change the rules. US has 320 million people, and then US always wins everything in Olympics, dude. Because you have such a massive population, and you're a big country. So if you are a prosperous country, that's why I always say that Australia is technically the number one in Oscar. Sorry, I don't know why I'm saying Oscar in Olympics, because from if you see the number of people in Australia and number of medals, if you do it, Australia is always number one. Like if you do it
Hmm.
from that way, but the
Very
world
true.
doesn't work that way. Okay,
Hmm.
whatever you have to make do with that. Right.
Yeah,
And then India has
exactly.
so much population, but we do jack shit in this thing. So when people say, oh, 10 people became billionaire in India, yeah, of course. Every fifth person is Indian. I mean, technically, according to me, every 3.5% is Indian because we have 2 billion population people hiding. Most of them. But the like, point is, like, it's not fair, right? Life is
Hmm.
not fair. It's
Yeah.
like, even as a girl, like, okay, one thing without debating too much, but like when I was growing up, women were really smart and not just studiously. I felt like bloody everybody. In fact, the girl who used to come first in my class, she was hardly reading. She would just be smarter. And then there was another guy who was from Bihar or Dhanbad, Vikash. So this guy
Uh,
is just used to like study a little bit and just come first. Rashmi would come first. I mean, like these guys are like crazy, man, scholars. And the other guy, what's his name, Jograj. Yeah. So then these people will just come first without even studying at all, and just they will like read for a bit, listen. So I had like massive disadvantage in these people, and then it was difficult. It's pretty much true for everybody. I was a bowler, but I was not so tall, so I need to use like different techniques to
yeah.
bowl faster. So
Yeah.
all these things, everybody will have their positives and negatives, and you have to figure out what you want. And if you really like something, if you put in the hard work, eventually you will get it.
Yeah.
Obviously, not everybody will become CEO. When we say most of the men become CEO, you don't understand that most of the men also become nothing. Okay. Become nothing also. So you forget this thing that only 20 men are like in 500, probably like 490 are there at the top. But apart from that, more than 7.5, like 3.5 billion men are doing nothing. They just do nothing
Yeah.
also. So that factor is completely. So coming to the next point then, that women feel much more guilt. Apparently, a lot of people say that men don't even feel any guilt. I feel men probably feel some guilt, but men feel very less guilt about not being able to give time to their children as long as they're going outside, not to enjoy, but to earn money,
That is
right?
true.
You know a
Yeah.
lot of examples. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know example. Even if you have to today go to United States, if you make that decision, eventually you'll not get brickbats for that. Maybe some emotional level
Hmm.
at your wife, but no. In the end of the day, people will support you if you go
Yeah.
to US, and particularly earning a lot more money that you're earning right now. And if you're away for a year, you will not be considered a bad person. In fact, you will be considered a sacrificing person who is sacrificing time with his wife and his daughter. Look at this person. This guy is. You will be Karan,
Hmm.
Dharamveer Karan, okay, or Yudhishthir. I don't know. I'm pretty bad in mythology, but women, when they don't, when they leave their kids, and particularly the quality time they're not doing, and particularly when the kids are really young, and can be easily manipulated. If the woman is told like you're not spending enough time, she will feel bad. If you go home, you're like you're not spending enough time with your wife. I'm like, okay, khana banao. So don't give me that shit. Okay, women want everything. Women want family after a certain time, maybe at 30 or 25, depending on everybody else. You can think of the median age. Family, children, love life, balanced life. Women want balance. Men just want win. Men want to win, and they want to keep going ahead, because when men go outside, when you meet people, it's like, so what do you do? What do you do? Okay, people first of all they say their profession, then they say their position. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the first thing they tell you. And if you say I am vice president, dude, complete the ball game changes. It is so important. The moment you say you're vice president, the other person's opinion of you, just just by those two words, vice president, and then if you change to president, complete changes. And you say assistant manager, you say manager, complete changes. And you say
Yeah.
manager in Accenture, it complete changes depending on like what you're saying. So what position you hold in your company is so important, which is not
Yeah.
important for women, and nobody judges them for that at all. So when that thing is not so important, particularly also for women, they don't really care so much. They feel like they want family, they want people to love them, they want to have their children, they want to have a husband or boyfriend, somebody that loves them. For men, it just feels like, okay, that's also part of, like, I think men also wanted. Let me clarify one thing, why some people might be thinking why men also wanted. Okay, for example, there are certain needs that everybody has. One is intimacy. That means people need to have sex with people, right? But
Hmm.
a man, if you're really busy, for example, let's just say I'm really busy. Let's say I'm working on a project and I say I can't. I've like taken up, I don't know, maybe next directing Avengers for the next two installments, and people like, of course not going to happen, but obviously like Indian version, maybe Shaktiman or something. And then I'm like, fuck this thing. I have to like be busy for 3 years. But I have my needs. I need to go out and do. I can't have a relationship because there'll be tantrums or other things. So, but because I am doing something good and I have the opportunity to go and see people, thanks to a lot of websites and everything, I will go out and actually, meet people at one time, and then okay, if I have to have sex with somebody, I can actually also have that and get on with it. But women, if I can do that in two, like let's say 1 year, I'm doing this, I meet 4 women and I have sex with them or something, and then start had sex with 4 women, and over a 2 year, maybe 8 women. But if you just completely shift that dynamic and put it to women, and then women actually have to have casual sex with 8 people in 2 years, and then people just view that completely differently. In
Hmm.
fact, even women have to hide that. Men actually
Yeah.
have to like promote that. So like, oh,
It's like a badge of honor.
that's what for them it's like a hall of shame.
Yeah.
So it's a complete dynamic. But again, as we said, at a personal level, you can also decide to break that uh, dynamic, and you say like, listen, I really don't care. And if you're actually
Hmm.
in a good position doing very well, people don't care. If you're Katrina Kaif, obviously there'll be tons of people going to your apartment or wherever nice place she lives in. So do you think the gatekeeper will ever say like something to Katrina Kaif? They can probably say whatever they. I'm just using an example. I don't know who comes to her
Yeah.
house, but I'm sure a lot of people must be coming, and obviously must be opposite gender as well, right? But if it
Hmm.
was a low middle class flat society, and a lot of people, men are coming to your house, and you're paying rent maybe 15,000, there will be some society old people of 62
Hmm.
years old. I'm giving example of my own society. They're like,
Yeah.
आपके घर में तो लड़के आते रहते हैं इतने ज्यादा, कितने कैसे ये तो
Yeah.
बच्चे वाले लड़के लगती है. I want to say, who actually says that to Katrina Kaif? And if she ever hears it, she will get them like disappear, just the way Chinese people do it. Like you just disappear, completely disappear. So my point is that if you actually want to do something, if you're really good at something, you can actually ignore all of it. You can
All
just,
the
you don't
noise.
have to
Yeah.
answer any of them. Your family, but trust me, when your father as a male says, बेटा गौरव, बेटा विक्रम, ये क्या कर रहे हो तुम? 4 लड़कियों के साथ तुम्हारा संबंध है 1 साल के अंदर, ठीक है? You might feel bad about it. You're like, हाँ ठीक है. But if you are a guy, imagine how you feel about the girl. Sorry, and you're instead of Gaurav, you're Gauri, and Bikram. I don't know what is the female one. So Bikri. So and then you just, and you feel like your father says something. You feel so deeply. It feels like something that you're destroying the family's fabric, the whole fabric of society. Because
Hmm.
everybody says that it's in your vagina. So there are a lot of factors. When as a CEO, you cannot just be going on at 8 o'clock. The point
Yeah.
is not 8 o'clock. point is that if somebody, you need to talk to somebody in Japan, in United States, in Canada, in Europe, you have to take that call. You have to take a 9:30, 10 o'clock in the middle of the night. You have to do it, because you can't just say like, oh, I'm home now and I have to take care of my kid. It just doesn't work that way. And
Yeah.
it just completely, and women, we're constantly saying that women don't want that life. And if women want that life, they will also end up moving up the ladder, just the way Sheryl Sandberg did, just the way Indira
Indra
Nooyi, right?
Nooyi, yeah.
Am I saying correctly? Indira Nooyi did. For 12 years, she was president, CEO of PepsiCo, even
CEO
coming
of
from, as you said,
PepsiCo.
I did not know that, coming
Yeah.
from a very basic, very orthodox family, Brahmin family, who actually, even after becoming, she became CEO, they still could not understand that. They were like, you
Yeah.
still a daughter, you're still a wife, you're still a mother. I
Yeah.
was like, I am CEO also. Can somebody acknowledge that too? I'm not saying I'm changing person, but can you just not actually give me some credit? But if she was a guy, her name was not Indra, her name was Inder Kumar, then we were like, भाई CEO बन गया मेरा बेटा पेप्सिको का, तुम तो भगवान हो, तुमको किसी को टच करने की जरूरत नहीं है, गिलास हम उठाएंगे तुम्हारा, ठीक है? Same mother, the attitude changes. But again, you can't, you either you can complain about everything, or you can say, listen, I gotta do something and I'm gonna do it. Okay, you don't
Yeah.
have to offend everybody. You don't have to say fuck you to everybody, but like be subtle. Be like Narendra Modi. Just the way he walked out on Karan Thapar's interview in 2007 when the guy asked him to apologize for Godra Kand. Again, digressing, but he very politely moved out. He said, "Listen, Karan, ये interview नहीं होगा." So and he moved out, and he did not even later on. Apparently, Karan told later on that he actually gave him dhoklas and other thing and kept him for an hour. He's like, "Don't worry about it, please. अच्छे से रहिए." So he's like, this guy is like this unflappable person, weird person, and that's how
Yeah.
he's always been, right? So I feel like
Yeah.
when women want validation, when you want all this, and guilt is there when you're going to leave something, and particularly also something you really want, and you wanted to get married, wanted to have kids, wanted to fall in love, and then you leave it, and then you feel guilt yourself, and you see your 30s or 40s, that's when you're going to become CEO, but your
Yeah.
priorities are different. Women just have different priorities, and that's the reason why they don't become CEOs. And glass ceiling and cultural things, they're always going to be there. But those are things which can be overtaken, because a person is saying nobody in Ethiopia can become, nobody from Africa can become CEO.
Hmm.
They're already far behind, but they do.
Yeah.
Satya Nadella, we already talk about Sundar Pichai. These people did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they said, I'm going to do it. And they moved to United States. If you were to become to United States, your chances, I don't know if you'll become CEO of Google or not, because that's a different situation. I mean, we have to talk to Sundar. But uh, your chances will be definitely higher, right? If you take up every assignment, if you take up
Hmm.
every project that you want to take, and you raise your hand every single time, like, I'm going to do
Yeah.
it, I'm going to do it. Even if you have to freaking stay up till 2 o'clock, work on the weekends, sleep on the floor right next to Elon Musk and his weirdly named kids, you will obviously get the promotion. It's just true.
Yeah.
It just works. It's just exactly the way it works.
Yep.
So I think I've just pretty much said what I wanted to say on this thing. I don't know, like,
No, I think, I mean, you have said everything which was there to be said. I don't want to elongate it any further, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely. And glass ceiling will always be there in some or the other way for everyone. Everyone has challenges to overcome, unless you are, as what was her name, Ananya Birla. So maybe she
you
also
become
has
a
some
singer.
challenge. We don't know.
She's a
Yeah.
singer. You should see
So,
her online.
oh, she's
Why am I
doing.
promoting Ananya Birla? I don't want to promote Ananya Birla. She puts songs out there. She thinks she's like Ariana Grande or something. I don't know. It's just bad. And she gets like millions of views within like 2 hours. I don't know how the hell somebody gets millions of views in 2 hours and then stops. Okay. She's like 5 million views within like 5 years, then it just stops. And making 6 million in 1 year then. So like these people are just paying people money. So I had a lot of
So yeah,
like
I was
funny
just
quotes.
saying that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that happens. That's what I mean. If you are from a privileged family, that, I mean, I don't, we can't, we don't know what's the struggle for them, and what kind of life they have to lead, and what is there for them, what is challenging for them. We can't say that, since we are normal people. But that's what I'm saying, that for normal people there will be always challenges, which will be different. Each one will have their own fight, and they'll have to fight to it. Even for us, since we are doing this, from, I think, from last 2 months, I'm working almost 10 hours, 11 hours a week, every day, 7 days a
Hmm.
week. So these kind of sacrifices you'll have to make if you want to do something. If I could have just said, oh, I don't get time, I am tired, I have a job, I can't do this, and just complain about it. Or I can just spend less time sleeping or spend no time doing anything, time wasting things like posting on Instagram and all that.
Yeah, that's tons of
So
wasteful things.
yeah, so there's always scope for you to do something if you really like it. If you don't, I mean, there are things like ये अच्छा लग रहा है यार कर लेते हैं, then that doesn't work out. After 2 days your willpower will go away and then nothing will happen. So challenges will always be there, but it's up to you how you fight through them.
Yeah, I think so. I'll end on this note that, as Cheryl said, that if there are more women CEOs or more involvement and more women wanting to be up there, it'll be a better world. I'm not sure just because of somebody's genders, it will be a better world.
Yeah.
But I feel if from a contribution point of view, because there are equal number of men and women overall, apart from Haryana, which I always keep talking about, so UP. Worldwide, generally, there are more women because of more westernized countries, and the women actually also live longer. That's probably one of the main reasons. 8 years longer than men because men commit
Because they
suicide
don't
more.
become CEO.
Yeah, they don't become CEO, just freakishly stressful. Think about all the CEOs, they go crazy and just die after that. So I do feel like whatever it is, I feel like but I feel it's true for everything that instead of blaming, like we are brown people, right? So
Hmm.
technically, we are not at the highest echelon in the world, right?
Hmm.
So if somebody sees us, they will judge us because of the color of our skin, right? Naturally.
Hmm.
So if, for example, I speak better English, somebody speaks less better English, people will judge you for that as well. But then I'm 5 feet 6.5 inches. I always say 5 feet 7, but then people judge you for that. It's like, oh, he's short. Some women will not want to date with me because I'm too short. Some people are like, oh, now you're getting older. We don't care. Some people are like, your hair is so a lot of hair, but it's thinning, so it's not good. So people will find a lot of reasons, or you can figure out that
Yeah.
what you're good at and you keep doing whatever you want to do. And if women want to be the best mother, they have to be. But at the end of the day, you can't just go on and thinking like, I wanted to be a mother, I wanted to be a CEO, I wanted my husband to love me, I wanted my children to do so well, I wanted everything to be pristine clean. It's just not going to happen. It's just
Yeah.
same way. It's just the way it works. It's just the way it is. So, but if you really want something, your gender is not stopping you. It's only you who's stopping you. And I think that pretty much holds true for everything. So that
Everything.
on that note, I'll probably just end. I think this was a good, crisp conversation.
Yeah.
So have a good day. Enjoy lockdown 4. Lockdown 6 is coming and 7 will be even better. I think it will actually beat the iPhone numbers here with the lockdowns very soon before September. All right. Bye bye. Take care.